Alright, take two. What are you weak to? Oh, you're weak to regular Donna. Why does retry not just make me... I get why, it's a random enemy, but still, it's stupid. Why can't retry just let me, fight this thing again, even if it is considered... Nah, I didn't want to save. I did not want to save.
Change, here goes.
The worst I could say about the plot is that it takes a while to get going, but even then, I do still love the castaway stuff and, like, the island. But the worst I could say about the plot is that it takes a while to really learn stuff. It kind of falls into a similar problem as 9. They're like, oh, we're gonna learn a lot. They kind of, like, tease you a bit, like, oh, it's gonna be a big plot moment, and then kind of like, oh, like, you didn't really learn all that much. The game kind of hyped it up, but you didn't really learn all that much. And it's like, oh, the next area is gonna be good. And you learn a little bit, but it's not all that much, you know? Which I don't think that's really a bad thing. It's really not a bad thing, but it's just, it does mean the game has a bit of a slow start with the plot. But the island's really fun to explore, and the idea of finding castaways is good. So, it gets a pass, I guess. Besides Donna, Rakoda's my second favorite. I mean, like, I feel like Loxia got a good amount of focus in the beginning, but not a lot. She had her whole, like, you know, she was a tsundere, and then eventually she opened up about her father. So she got a decent amount of focus in the beginning. Sahad, like, honestly, other than being the comic relief, Sahad hasn't really gotten much focus other than the fact that he has a wife and a child. So Sahad, like, I feel like Sahad, even though, like, he's, like, the comic relief and he gets a lot of moments, his background, other than knowing, like, oh, he's a father of his daughter and he has a wife, other than that, there's not really much, like, he gets in terms of story. And Hummel, I really like Hummel. I don't dislike Hummel, but I feel like they could have done more with Hummel. Like, him being a transporter, and they had that side quest where he, like, never, like, he always gets the jobs done and stuff, but they really should have went more in the Hummel. And Rakoda they used pretty well at, like, you know, the fact that she's, like, the one who hasn't seen the outside world. By the way, I'm gonna try this, like, one more time and then I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna at least turn it to hard mode. So they use Rakoda pretty well at, like, oh, like, she knows nothing about the outside world. But it's very obvious. It's very obvious that,
Here goes.
the game hard focuses Donna, which is good. Donna's a really good character. But normally, in a game, I rather them focus more or less on all the characters. But it feels like the game hard focuses Donna. Which, again, Donna's good, but I would have liked it if the others got more, like, focus on them. And then there's the castaways. Ys 9 had side quests that, like, fleshed the castaways out. Fleshed them out. Like, the side quest did really good. The castaways are, like, they're likable too, but, like, it feels like more could have been done with them too.
I'm sorry.
And you're probably thinking to yourself, oh, Nova, you're probably not gonna like the game by the end because you're talking about the characters. I'm still gonna like the game because I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna compare this game to another game I play, which I don't really love, but I don't hate either. I wanna actually read this first. This game does the same thing though with Primordials, since the story stuff doesn't really get going till part 4. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't really... Another thing I wish... I kind of wish the killer, Nameless was such a cool, like, idea for a early plot device. And, like, having an early antagonist. I kind of wish it lasted longer. I wish, Nameless lasted longer. It felt pretty rushed. and I kind of feel like it lasted a little bit longer. Because it didn't even last, I kind of wish it had its own chapter, to be honest. They could have easily, like, made you learn stuff faster and had a whole chapter dedicated to Nameless.
See something.
Because Nameless felt pretty rushed, and Kiergaard's motivations were lame. But putting that aside, the idea of having a castaway, it's like, oh, I'm not gonna work with you guys. I'm gonna, like, kill people, and, like, it's survival of the fittest. It's a really interesting idea, but I kind of wish it lasted longer. It was a really neat idea. I just wish it, like, lasted longer is all. Anyway, as I was going to say, I'm getting really off topic, but I haven't really talked about the game, and we're near the end, so I'm at that point where I'm like, I want to talk about how I'm feeling with the game, because I'm still loving it. But no game is perfect, and these are Ys 8's minor shortcomings. A game I'm going to compare this to is Scarlet Nexus. Now, I don't love Scarlet Nexus. I don't hate Scarlet Nexus. It's fine to good. On a good day, it's a good game. On a good day, it's a good enough game. But on another day, it's like fine. And Scarlet Nexus had really fun combat. It got a little repetitive towards the end, but it was still pretty fun. And the story was all over the place. I thought the premise was interesting. The mid-game kind of fell flat. And then the end game was both a little bit epic, but also convoluted. But the cast of characters in Scarlet Nexus, other than Yuito and Kasane, fell flat. Because the characters in Scarlet Nexus didn't really feel that deep. They just had like one kind of trope idea, and you may be thinking, oh, Nova, they had Bond episodes. They didn't utilize Bond episodes well. They had a chance to make the characters interesting like Three Houses. Three Houses utilizes supports really well at making the characters interesting. They had an idea to do that with Scarlet Nexus, but I don't feel like they did it well at all. The Bond episodes kind of felt wasted, and they really didn't do all that much. Like Gemma's, for example, didn't really focus all that much on... it kind of did focus on Gemma in the second half, but the first half felt so random compared to the second half. And then some of them were just like, oh, we're enemies, but let's just go talk at Masubi's like it's nothing. So, the Bond episodes just didn't do all that much, and I expected them. So, now, you're probably wondering how does Ys 8 tie into this? If I'm saying this stuff about Ys 8's characters, I love Ys 8. I like Ys 8's characters far more than I like Scarlet Nexus's characters. Because Scarlet Nexus feels like, other than Yuito and Kasane, I think Yuito and Kasane are fine, are good enough protagonists. I think they're neat protagonists. But they do not, they're not like amazing. They're not some of my favorite protagonists, but they're good enough protagonists. I think Ys 8 has far better characters than Scarlet Nexus, because at least the characters are like deeper and more likable. And they at least have little moments, and Scarlet Nexus, the moments didn't feel as good. So, you know. I'm not leaving till I beat this thing. But, yeah, so there is my rebuttal to like, oh, you're kind of treating this game like you are Scarlet Nexus. Ys 8's characters, while they're not amazing, they're good enough. And Scarlet Nexus, the characters were just fine. They weren't even good, they were just fine. Again, Yuito and Kasane were good protagonists, but the cast, like Hanabi, Luca, Kagero, etc., they were fine. Not terrible, but not really memorable or good. I can't believe I got that. Focusing for a bit before... oh, dang it. But yeah. One thing I do like about Ys 8's cast, and not so much the cast, is the way they interact with each other. Again, not super amazing. They could have done more with it. But I do like the way the cast interacts with one another. They at least got good character chemistry together. And Scarlet Nexus... didn't do all that much with that. So this game is far better than Scarlet Nexus because the characters are good. And the combat's much more fun. Like, Scarlet Nexus had fun combat for the beginning and mid-game, and then it just kind of got repetitive. And then Raptor literally says, except for the final dungeon, that's what I said. I said at the end it got repetitive. Which, final dungeon, yeah. Scarlet Nexus was cool in the beginning, and then you kind of realize, like, oh, it's the same stuff. You're never really changing the way you play, and you kind of get over it. I want to beat this thing because I want to go to the Valley of Kings. I'm gonna come back though. It is level 66. Yeah, dude. I just noticed its level. I'm gonna come back. I don't think the game expects me to kill this thing now. Donna stuff is admissible, so I'm cool with it. I really want to go to the Valley of Kings and get more story before ending. What we got in chat here? Side quest and that guy. Oh, side quest. Yeah, Scarlet Nexus had some of the worst side quests in gaming. Scarlet Nexus's side quests were really bland and boring to do, and they were tedious to do. And they didn't do that much for anything. They were just fetch quests of like, hey, do this, here, you get an item. They were boring, both like not unique enough, and they just weren't fun to do or tedious. They were tedious and not fun to do, and the combat was... That made the combat even more repetitive, the fact that you had to do those side quests, so I just stopped doing them. They were not fun. Now, when it comes to side quests, I'm going to compare this game to Tales of Arise, because while Tales of Arise's side quests aren't super deep, they give you really nice character dialogue with the characters. Like, you'll have Rimwell and Law involved in one, or Kisara and Shion, Dohalim and Rimwell, etc., etc. So, Tales of Arise, you can argue like, oh, the side quests in that game were also boring. True, but you're rewarded with really nice character moments and the dialogue, which sometimes is pretty funny. And the characters in the Rise are really, really good, so you're rewarded for character moments for doing those side quests. So they're worth it. Doing those like bland side quests in Arise are worth it, but Scarlet Nexus, what's the point other than netting an item, which you probably don't need? The river's dried up. This is supposed to be supplying water to the capital. What happened? Alright, I'm done with my little rant. I got on a really big tangent there, but I was talking about how I'm feeling about VIII, then it turned to Scarlet Nexus, so that's a piece of the falling star. Its impact must have dammed the river. The plants are starting to die. I can't just ignore this. It's necessary, though, because I want to point out, because the way I was talking about this game felt like how I talked about Scarlet Nexus, but VIII has a lot more better qualities. Whatever this falling star is made of is incredibly dense. That must be why the current has completely stopped. But if I can move it out of the way, the river should flow again. I think I can move it with my essence. Here goes nothing. Man, I've thought. It worked. Plants should start growing again. With the changes in the weather, I don't know how long that will take. I must do whatever I can. I must go soon. Need to trust everyone and keep moving. Got it. Happens when talking about games. Yeah, exactly. You know, I enjoy playing the game, but sometimes I like talking, you know? Like, stream is a good time to talk about anything. Like, we don't always have to talk about the game I'm playing. It especially helps when I'm grinding or doing something mindlessly, like, not boring necessarily, but repetitive. It helps to talk and get over it. I think I gave Scarlet Nexus like a 5 or 6 out of 10. I feel like when I finished the game, I was a lot more positive on it. Like, I still didn't say it was a good game, but I feel like I have a more negative opinion of it now than I did when I first... That's how games work, too. I changed my opinion on the game after a few months. I think when I first finished Scarlet Nexus, I gave it a 6 out of 10. Now I would give it like a 5 out of 10. Which you may be thinking, is that really a big difference? Yes, it is a major difference. I basically consider it an average game. Before I consider it just above average, I would now consider it average.
Let's retreat for now. Go!
In the moment positivity? No, that wasn't it. I don't think so. I guess to a sense, it wasn't like a slog to play. The final dungeon dragged, and the combat got repetitive. The game wasn't really a drag to play until the final dungeon, so I don't think that was it. Maybe the final dungeon made me relieved to be done with it, but the game itself wasn't a drag. It was mostly just the final dungeon.
Everyone, I'm sorry.
And with that said, I did say maybe I'll do Kasane's story. Saying all this, and my opinions change, I'm probably never gonna do Kasane's story. I don't feel like it'd be worth it. Maybe on my own time to get the Platinum Trophy, and like skip most cutscenes because I could care less about the cast. Definitely not a playthrough though. I've got way too much to play that I want to use another slot on Scarlet Nexus. The game was good enough to play the first time. It's kind of like a one and done game, honestly. Is a good way to put it. Like, not a terrible game, but once you play it once, and the game reinforces 2 playthroughs, but it wasn't good enough for me to be like, yeah, I'm gonna play it again, at least anytime soon. Alright, let's actually go on with the story. Because I'm done talking. I didn't want to talk during cutscenes, hence why I stopped. Now, I have like 20 minutes left, hopefully. Will I platinum that first before this game? Who said I was gonna platinum that first? I never said that. I said one day when I need a platinum. I'm not gonna go platinum it right now. Now you're putting words in my mouth. I said the only reason I would play it again is to platinum it. I never said when I would do that. The game came out in 2021, right? A year ago? It needs to be at least 2 to 3 years before I platinum that game and play it again. Even if I am skipping the cutscenes. That's just factually incorrect. Oh my word, lots of Saurians. I'm gonna honestly do this. I still have to platinum Ys 9. That's gonna be platinum first. Because Ys 9 I haven't played in a longer time. Like, as much as I love Ys 8, I'm gonna like, I don't know if I'm gonna want to dive right back into it. I rarely want to dive right back into a game. I have to replay the game for this platinum, so probably gonna wait maybe a few months. I don't think I need to wait a year for Ys 8, but definitely a few months. Ys 9, however, I would replay that after this playthrough because it's been a minute since that game. And I'm also close to getting all the trophies in it, so. Oh, I did retry, didn't I? No, Scarlet Nexus came out in June. It came out on my birthday last year. Scarlet Nexus was the birthday game. I remember that. I'm never gonna forget it came out in June because I remember playing it. It came out exactly on my birthday. So it came out in June. Exactly June 25th.